What's up? What's up? Audio should be live. Everybody who's popping in. We are going to do a fun one today. So basically, what happened was I recorded a full video and it was almost done. Literally was recording the wrap up. And as I was recording the wrap up, what happened? Hold on, let me switch the camera angle there. There you go. So basically, what's up, Parabellum? Hey, I haven't seen your comments in a while. So basically, what I'm gonna do is today's live is going to be I'm going to re-record the video that I just recorded that crashed. I lost the entire file, which was a bit of a bummer because I spent all day lining everything up, which is fine. Because what we're gonna do is for today's stream is it's basically gonna be like I'm recording the video. It's going to be a very targeted, it's going to be a very specific stream. And I'll get into all the stuff that I got into earlier. But what we're going to do is now I'll be able to elaborate on it. Funny enough, on all of the days for my video to crash and not be able to get a video out, today was the day I decided to do an even longer one. So we're going to do a longer video today. It's going to be like, you guys are here for the recording, I'm going to be making the video, and I'll try and interact with your comments as much as I can, but I also want to make sure I get my points out in regards to the video that we're going to be doing. So oh, well, Parabellum, today's video is very strong on the foreign entrepreneurs, let me tell you. That's why today's video, it was going to be so much longer. And I want people to be able to watch this stream recap as if it's a full video. So let's get into this here. So what we're going to be doing, oh yeah, Parabellum, don't worry. We're heavy on the foreign entrepreneurs today. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to just record this and set this up like a video so people can watch the playback easily as well. But the people who are live, hopefully it's fun because we're going to get into it a little bit more. Here we go. So this obviously, so how I started the video was it's looking like in the US, in short order, the government shutdown will be done. It'll be over, hopefully. We're all hoping. And obviously that would be great news for pretty much everybody, to be honest. The world's kind of waiting to see what happens with the government shutdown. Another major announcement that happened was the 50-year mortgages out of the US, which for Canadians is actually insane when you compare the two. But let's get into what they say here. First of all, guys, how's my audio? Can somebody comment down below? Let me know. Make sure I'm not too loud, not too quiet. That way you guys can hear me. And then once I hear that, I'm going to need you guys to weigh in. Okay, cool. Thank you, Daniel. So I'm going to play this video. If this is really loud, let me know. Just because I don't have time to audio correct or anything. We're just going to be going. But this is, it's very targeted today. It's very specific. It'll be fun.
No. President Trump's latest attempt to tackle housing unaffordability. What do you think that is? A 50-year mortgage. Darren Botello is on Capitol Hill for us. What's the administration looking to do here, Darren?
Hey, good morning, Stuart. So first of all, they're trying to offer relief to home buyers or potential home buyers all across the country with the nationwide housing crisis. And what they're offering is this 50-year mortgage. It's maybe for people who can't afford the 30-year mortgage because this would potentially bring down their monthly payments. The president, by the way, Stuart, is receiving a lot of praise for this initiative, especially by Bill Pulte, of course, from the FHFA. With Americans struggling with how prices and also with those interest rates. Take a look right here. Pulte actually posting on X saying, quote, "We hear you. We are laser focused on ensuring the American dream for young people, and that can only happen on the economic level of home buying. A 50-year mortgage is simply a potential weapon."
Okay, so there's a comment down below from my boy Parabellum, and he says this is debt slavery. And here's what I said in the video, and here's what I personally believe about this 50-year mortgage. Personally, I would not take a 50-year mortgage. Here's why I wouldn't. Because it's 50-year mortgage, you're basically a slave to your house for 50 years, and you're essentially doubling what you're going to be paying in interest to the banks. Like this tool is going to be awesome for the banks, not necessarily awesome for the people borrowing. However, there are two lines of thinking on why you could possibly make the 50-year mortgage work and make it a good idea, okay? They're very specific and you would have to be very smart with it, or else you're basically burning the entire option of having the good option of the 50-year mortgage. So, option one is if you are somebody who has access to a 30-year mortgage, but you wanted to get your payment as low as possible, then you could lock in a 50-year mortgage, look into what the prepayment penalties would be. If the penalties are not minor or non-existent and you're allowed to make prepayments per year, then the only way you can make sense of that is if you choose, okay, I'm going to get a 50-year mortgage payment, take all of that extra money that you would have saved between the 30 and the 50, pay down extra on the principal, and then pay down even more on top of that. Try and use that payment to pay off the mortgage in like 15 years because your payment was so much lower. If that's the case, then yes, the 50-year mortgage makes sense because what you've done is you've gotten the lowest payment and paid off your house as fast as possible. If you keep the 50-year amortization, then it's not even close to worth it. The other option is, and this one's a bit more complicated, people might not understand it. I don't even know if I'm going to do a good job explaining it, but the way that money works is money is devalued over time. That's what inflation is. That's the way that our entire money system works. So, in theory, if you personally believe that money will inflate faster than what you'd be paying on the interest rate of the mortgage, basically, then it would make sense that you would believe, okay, if I have a 50-year mortgage, then I can essentially inflate away the value of that mortgage over the 50 years. And then you could possibly make an argument that accessing that 50-year mortgage money would, especially if it's going to keep your payment lower and it's going to allow you access to the market, you could essentially inflate away that value. I still don't think that makes a lot of sense to do personally, only because you'd have to be really, really specific. And again, so for me, the only way that this new 50-year mortgage makes sense is if you are going to pay it off fast. That's the only way. So again, we're trying to structure this like a video. So something that it was really funny that the mainstream media has been doing is they have really, really ramped up the anti-Trump rhetoric. They just brought on John Bolton. They just put out a ton of different like hit pieces on him. And so what they did is they brought in liberal favorite ex-Prime Minister Jean Chrétien today just for him to come in and basically hate on Trump. Listen to the propagandized answer the propagandized question that he is given. Of course, it's not like he's been secretive about this, but here's his answer and question. And yes, this is from the CBC. Yeah, John Bolton is like literally going to be in jail. And so, but they're bringing him on as like an expert. It's so funny that like the Canadian mainstream media is like, oh yeah, let's bring in the expert who's currently on trial right now. Okay, so here's the video with Jean Chrétien.
Of an asset.
Does Donald Trump want our water?
He wants it. Of course, he wants it. He wants everything that is good in Canada. It's ambition is one thing, but it's not available free. You will have to negotiate. It is in our interest to have good relations with the American, and it is in their interest to have good interest with us.
Yeah, it's so before she gets to the question here, we're going to get into it in a second because Mark Carney decided to make an announcement that was, again, slightly antagonistic to the U.S., even though in this case, you know what, Parabellum? I have no idea how this guy's still alive. I think he's like 91, and he's still mobile. He's walking around. But like he seemed like he was unhealthy 20 years ago. Also, something worth covering this here. Jean Chrétien, the man himself, was also one of the people who sold a lot of Canada's gold. And this is actually important when we get into some of the economic stuff that we're going to be getting into, because as much as I can't stand Mark Carney, everybody tries to blame him for selling all of the gold. It was not Mark Carney. Mark Carney was not responsible for selling the gold. It was first Pierre Trudeau and then Jean Chrétien were the two who sold most of Canada's gold. And then, yes, in regards to who would be alive for a 50-year mortgage, almost nobody. That's why personally, I believe the only way the 50-year mortgage makes sense is if you plan on keeping the lowest payment and using all of that saving to pay off as fast as possible, get that thing done in like 15 years. So listen to the question she says here, how she words it. This is the Canadian mainstream media and how they set up him to just basically be like, wow, listen how evil Trump is.
I would like to understand, you dealt with so many world leaders over the years. There is something unique about what Donald Trump is doing right now. He says he hates his enemies. He is relying on executive power to get a lot of things done. Immigration raids where people are being handcuffed in the streets. Do you think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy?
So she says, oh, he says he hates his enemies. Okay, so he's more honest about how he feels about people. He uses executive powers. Oh, you mean the powers that are well within legal reigns? I mean, to be fair, the tariffs are being argued right now. But the fact that he uses his executive powers. Well, if they are his executive powers, that means he can use them. And then the third one is, oh, well, he's using ICE to crack down on immigration. Yeah, that's their job. They also have to manage all of the illegal immigration that's happening inside of the U.S. So the fact that, during trade negotiations, during all of this stuff, that this lady takes the time to go like, do you think he's a threat to democracy because he's following the rules? It's like, wow. And then, of course, we get into what Jean Chrétien says here down in Canada. We got the...
He is. He is. Because he does not care much about the rule of law. And the Western society is built on the rule of law. When there is no more rule of law, it's blackmail on a daily basis, and it's not working. You will not be there forever. And there will be a price to pay for that.
So here's the thing that I find so ironic. One is that his idea that, oh, you need to obey the rule of law. Yeah, we know. It's the liberals who are the ones who continue to ignore the rule of law. And when we get into the foreign entrepreneurs and Operation Carneys in this video, which is like, I've got so many stories today. Also, stick around for the end of the video because we got probably, in my personal opinion, one of the funniest headlines that we've seen in Canada in 2025. I literally thought it was fake. Yes, Canada stands rule of law is not very useful. But yes, so speaking of, we've got this clip from Mark Carney here. And during job shortage, during, obviously we know immigration is, yes, great question. That was another point actually, Matt, that I had made during the original recording, which was, Canadians have been propagandized that like, oh, you need to follow the rules, you need to follow the laws, you take your marching orders from the Liberal government of Canada. So they continue to put in, new anti-free speech laws. They're trying to control online. They're trying to do everything. And that's part of what really inspired this video today, because I'm going to be digging into the foreign entrepreneurs quite a bit. And so I want to get that out before, we get in trouble. But anyways, during trade negotiations, we do have Mark Carney here. And right now, the H-1Bs, the temporary foreign workers in the U.S., is a bit of a contentious topic. In Canada, it's a very contentious topic. For once, the government is finally acknowledging, hey, maybe we've been, abusing the temporary foreign workers program a little bit, and maybe we shouldn't have unlimited Indians here through that program. So, the Singhs in particular, the brothers Singh are a direct focus of the foreign entrepreneurs. It's insane what I'm going to get into, guys. Trust me, stick around for it. But here's him like using this language that he's basically going after American talent, which I don't think they're going to care as much right now, but it's not good optics.
So 1.7 billion for the world's most talented researchers, 1,000 of them, and targeted H-1B visa recruitment from the United States.
So they're clapping that he's targeting the H-1B recruitment from the United States. Yeah, Rich, he was very much, that was when China was major immigration to Canada was under Chrétien's rule, and that's when we saw like the mass immigration from China, way more control, all of that stuff. But so again, that was just bad optics. But the reason I wanted to cover this is because in the States right now, there are public figures finally showing their true colors, and it took a really long time for this to come out in Canada. So I don't know if you guys were following this at all, but Tyler Oliveira put out a video about the poop throwing festival in India, and as a result has been under major fire from the foreign entrepreneurs. And you would think that it would be a no-brainer that that's not something that you would want to defend. But for some reason, the foreign entrepreneurs, and this always happens, we've got multiple people in Canada, is the Dinesh D'Souza and these people in Canada, Rupa Anna Goswami or whatever her name is. I've featured her tweets before because she's not a bad writer, but then as soon as it comes down to brass tacks, she proves that she's not a free speech fan. She is, you know, not on our side, basically. So Dinesh D'Souza, he said, how about commenting on this festival? It seems like the future belongs to the poop throwers, which is, I can't believe I had to say that. But what he's saying is, in this chart here, economically, what you have is the Asians compared to the white, Hispanic, black. And what he's saying is, oh, the Asian households right now are out earning almost everybody else in the US. So his counter argument is saying that the US is being sold out to non-Americans, is basically what he's saying, which doesn't really make sense to me as like an argument to somebody who's supposed to be like, he's supposed to be a, you know, right-wing guy, or at the very, you know, I think he's what is referred to as a rhino, Republican in name only. But either way, he put out another pretty subversive tweet in partnership with that. And I think you need to be mindful when these things happen, because he said, we keep hearing arrogant boasts about how the new generation will subvert their parents, but the philosopher John Locke had a solution to this 3 centuries ago. He said, cut off their inheritance. Facing that prospect, people will lose their enthusiasm for generational warfare. And the funny thing is, the only reason we're experiencing the generational warfare is because of Operation Currybomb and the mass immigration, because what's been happening is we've been devolving into a state where resources are becoming limited, and the people who are holding assets, who started these things before, were able to build more wealth, and now people are becoming slightly more resentful of the older generation, saying, well, you own a house, it was easier for you, which of course is technically true, but the only reason it was easier is because immigration was not as insane as it is now. So like, I think that really does need to be more of a talking point. Yeah, you want to send us some Mexicans, Matt? I don't know. You know what? To be honest, Canada yearns for Mexicans compared to Operation Currybomb. If that was the trade-off, that we would just be getting flooded with people from Mexico, I would take it. Getting into this clip here, it's a pretty grim look when it comes to the cost of living crisis that we're seeing in Canada, and this is all related to how we just saw Mark Carneys trying to bring in more temporary foreign workers. You've got the people subverting in the United States saying, oh, you need all the temporary foreign workers. These people need to come in. They're the only ones building these countries. So here we go. Yeah, very true, Parabellum. Let's get into this clip here, and you'll see this is what we're devolving to in Canada.
CTV's Maria Saru is talking to shoppers in Charlottetown. Maria, what are they sharing?
Heather, every time those doors open behind me, people come out carrying staples, but some say they're delaying payments from electric bills to credit cards to keep their families fed. And the data suggests it's an issue coast to coast. The doors swish open at this Charlottetown store. Carts rattle out and islanders load groceries into their cars.
So if you guys didn't catch that, they literally said that people are skipping their bills just so they can eat. Okay.
But some say putting food on the table comes with trade-offs.
It's getting harder all the time.
I usually try to aim for as many sales as I can.
The more it's getting higher, it's affecting our daily bills. My car insurance, the fuel.
What the hell did that guy just say? We're gonna play that again. I don't know. All right. Let's get back to it. You guys comment down below if you can figure out what this guy just said.
I can.
The more it's getting higher, it's affecting our daily bills. My current
Really try to aim for as many sales as I can.
Okay, Canada is straight up turning into the Tower of Babel if that is what is being interviewed and play on the mainstream media. Let's play this again. This is the third time. I have no idea what this guy said. Hold on.
the more it's getting higher, it's affecting our daily bills. My current
What? Too much getting a what? What was that? Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that. Okay. Wow. We're gonna move on, but that's insane. Okay, we got another guy here. Let's see if we can understand him a little better.
insurance, the fuel, my phone bill, my rent, the groceries, and all that stuff.
New Nanos research for CTV News found 1 in 5 Canadians have skipped paying bills to buy groceries in the past year, and those under 55 were 4 times more likely to do so. Inflation and high housing costs are major factors contributing to the generational divide, says Chief Data Scientist Nick Nanos.
What's clear is that there's a significant proportion of Canadians that are facing those really tough choices. It's quite striking. I think in any other world, this would be considered an epidemic.
13% said they skipped bills sometimes or often, but a regional breakdown shows that number is highest in the Atlantic provinces at 24.2%.
And this is why I really wanted to cover this part of it, because it's all related to immigration. One, we just saw those guys earlier in the clip. Sorry, I gotta calm down. That was just, I still don't know what he said. I've watched it so many times. Okay, so calm down. Basically, we saw that immigration is having a huge impact on the cost of living inside of Canada. We are now having people say that in anywhere else this would be declared a crisis. And we know it's a crisis because there are people in Canada who physically cannot feed themselves, that are working multiple jobs or even just working full time, and they're still, you should not be in the position of working full time and you have to choose to not pay your bills to just eat. I understand that not every job is going to pay unreal. So it's like, okay, if you are working a full-time minimum wage job, you're not going to be able to live a luxury lifestyle. That's fine. That's accepted. But if you are working a full-time minimum wage job, you should not have to be able to not be able to pay your bills just so that you can eat. And that's where, yeah, and that's the problem, is they always say, well, you know, just cut your Disney Plus. It's not about the Disney Plus. It's about that we are in an actual crisis when it comes to standard of living in Canada and what people are having to deal with. And this is why it's like, and this is why I compare the US and Canada so much, just because economically they are just vastly different. And we're seeing that right now, just from a straight up affordability perspective. America is way more affordable than the US, especially because you can move to other areas that are going to be way more affordable. Did I say way more affordable than the US? Way more affordable than Canada. Jonathan, I can answer that in a second. Just want to make sure I'm moving on to this here, because actually that question works really well. So Jonathan asks, what got me into politics? First of all, I just love covering economics. I love numbers. I love so I started out, like, you know, I was investing first. I don't know why I put quotes there. I was investing. And I started to pay more attention to macro. And everything that I discuss with you guys, everything that I discuss on the channel is stuff that I used to discuss with like friends or people at work or things like that. And so many people said, like, man, like, you gotta put those ideas out there. And I really enjoy covering this stuff. And so I was like, yeah, why am I not covering this? Why am I not spending all of my time on this? Because it's stuff that I enjoy. And I just like learning, for one. So that's obviously politics. It's not so much that I want to focus directly on the politics. I care way more about the changes that need to be made at, you know, even at the ground level in Canada. That's why I was talking about supporting local and stuff like that. But here's where we get into the free speech stuff that I think is starting to we're starting to see a trend when it comes to free speech. Not only has there been multiple bills, we had, what was it, Bill C3, I think. These are just off the top of my head, I can't remember, but Bill C12 possibly was, I think, another one of the bills, and it's all about the speech control and the online behavior. And we're seeing the sentiment heat up. And luckily, when Mark Carney was making his speech here, we did bring in all of these targeted H-1B. We've got a real meeting of the minds behind him with some serious Canadians. So let's get into Carney's statements here, and then we'll get into the next story, which I think is, it needs to be, Canadians need to hear about it, and I think Americans need to hear about it as well, too.
American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
So we can see early on he was already planning on controlling online sentiment, controlling online messaging, controlling what they can. You know, of course, oh, it's American platforms. Well, that's because Canada doesn't have any platforms. Although technically, I do think Rumble is Canadian. Technically, maybe. Yes. So then here we have this story here. And this story, I think, is incredibly important to cover. And I don't think this got anywhere near the coverage it needed to have. So this needed to be in front of way more people. Another NDP bill threatens to jail Canadians for speech. Jail Canadians for speech. We're not even talking about limiting, you know, online access anymore. We're talking about putting people in jail for their speech, and it's not even including, you know, calls to violence or any of these other things anymore. They're just talking about, this is how vague, this is how they write these laws this way on purpose so that it basically could just blanket cover everything. 2 years in jail for any Canadian caught condoning, so you're just condoning, denying, downplaying, or justifying the Indian residential schools. 2 years in jail for just condoning, denying, downplaying, or justifying. That has nothing to do with danger for anybody. That has nothing to do with safety. This only has to do with ideology and controlled thought. There is nothing to do with actual safety around this law. It is controlled thought. It is compelled speech. And this is why it needs to be talked about way more. And for any of the Americans, or honestly, even Canadians who don't know, the residential schools were a real thing. It was a thing that happened. There were natives. They were taken away from their parents. They were sent to school. They were educated, treated poorly often. It wasn't super great. It was not a fun time. However, there has been multiple coordinated hoaxes, coordinated and done around the residential schools specifically, one of which has been disproven time and time again is the mass graves hoax. They never found them. And, you know, I wasn't going to get into it this much. But the fact is, when people were saying originally, like, hey, we'd like to question those numbers that you're giving us. We'd like to say that, you know, hey, maybe that didn't happen. That sounds a little like they were telling stories at one point that they were getting thrown into the bathtub full of snakes. Like there was one guy who literally said he got thrown into a bathtub full of snakes. It's like, I don't think that happened. Did they collect the snakes for you? Like, why would you have made that up? So anyways, the fact that they're trying to control speech to this level and these things keep getting instituted is just showing this is a targeted plan for them. And the fact that this has nothing to do with actual danger is where I had the big concern. It was like my alarms were going off. I'm going, whoa, guys, like this is getting serious. They're no longer joking about, you know, taking over for free speech or anything anymore. So, and especially this story as well, going on top of that. What's up, Ryan? Welcome to the chat. We're recording this as a video in a stream, so it's very targeted, it's very specific, but I'm going to still keep interacting with you guys. I think it's more fun this way. So anyways, if you guys haven't heard this story, we had Daisy Media. This is all around, you know, the ostriches and all that stuff. Very true, Parabellum. So the video here, we have the police came to a media personality and said, hey, we are now giving you an official warning based on online posts. So this started to happen. Bill C3, Bill C12, this new bill that's just being announced, all of these new things that are, I hope I'm giving the right bill numbers. Maybe it's bill C8. I don't know. I feel like I'm forgetting. But anyways, there's a bunch of bills all back to back that have to do with compelled speech. Here's what happened. I don't know how loud this is going to be. We got to be careful. Let me know if this is too loud. But here's the police cracking down on a citizen for not doing anything illegal, just for posting.
This is recorded live? I hope so.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to read you something.
Okay.
This is going to be a warning for a section of the criminal code.
Can you guys hear it?
Okay.
Okay, so section 423.1 sub 1. No person shall, without lawful authority, engage in any conduct with the intent to provoke a state of fear in a justice system participant or military justice system participant in order to impede him or her in the performance of his or her duties.
Okay. Okay. So can you what do you mean by a justice system participant?
So that'd be anybody that's a peace officer.
Okay. So does that law apply to you as well? Because people have been doing that to everyone here, including myself.
I'm not going to speak to that.
Well, who can speak to that? So who sent you here? This is a formal warning?
Yes, that's a formal warning.
So he got a formal warning, which means it was recorded with the police, and this is just for his online posts. And the funny thing is, as this video continues, the officer says, well, I've even seen some of the posts that you posted online, and they're pretty dangerous. And Daisy goes, well, which ones? And he goes, oh, can't tell you. So he won't even tell them which posts are the ones that are dangerous. So this is the problem with these floating, ethereal, vague laws, because again, with the last one that we saw, it's just even condoning or underplaying. And then it's now, because you've controlled the speech to such a level, it becomes people's level of offense that makes things dangerous. And this is where slippery slope is a real thing, guys. We're watching it happen in real time. And it's really interesting timing that they started to put out all of these videos on free speech, on compelled speech. Hey, you're not allowed to question anything. You're not allowed to ask about anything. At the same time that they made these announcements that we're going to get into. One of those announcements is that Canada Post decided that the brothers Singh of the foreign entrepreneurs was the most important person to put on the Canadian stamps, because 10 of those guys were running around during World War I. That means they decided that they need to be on the stamps. That doesn't make any sense. And I know that this seems like a small thing, but here's why it's connected to the speech, because there was only 10 of them who were involved in World War I at all. Just so you guys know, I was wearing my poppy during the original recording of this video, and it kept falling off, and then I did not put it back on. But the reason why the speech control is so important is because this person here, Ikwinder S. Gahir, I'm assuming the S probably, yes, 10. Literally, there was 10 guys confirmed for World War I who were part of the foreign entrepreneurs and the brothers Singh. And for some reason, they decided to put them on the front, or on the stamp for Remembrance Day this year. But here's where it gets even funnier. We're having fun today. Like my audio, Ricardo, is it hard for me to hear? Guys, if it is hard for me if you guys to hear me, let me know. Because I can get closer to the mic, turn up the volume. But this is why it's so funny. Okay. This guy, Ikwinder Gahir, put up this post, and he said, it's been said, okay, first of all, it's been confirmed, not just said. It's been said that only a handful of Sikhs served in Canada during World War I. In reality, discrimination prevented many Sikhs from enlisting. So, now what this person's saying is they deserve to be on the stamps because of the intentions of serving back in World War I. So during World War I, they had the intention of serving. So like, moment of silence, like F's in the chat, guys, respect to all of the Sikhs who really wanted to serve in World War I, but didn't because of the discrimination. So we need to have a Remembrance Day based around them, even though they never actually served, but they really wanted to. They really wanted to. So that's where it becomes a hilarious thing that they want. But again, this is why they want the controlled speech, because now we go, well, hey, can we look backwards? Gandhi was not a Canadian, I'll tell you that much. He would have been technically a British citizen, I guess, but he was certainly not Canadian. So anyways, they don't want you to check back on history. They want to control the speech. And when we are seeing things, this is where we are going to connect why they are controlling the speech so much, why it makes sense for us to pay attention to it in real time and try and nip these things in the bud early. Because as we've seen, Canadian Senate Bill S-206 for a guaranteed livable basic income passed second reading and will be sent to committee. So what they are working on, this is from UBI Works. In Canada right now, they are working on a universal basic income at the same time that they are pumping in immigrants, at the same time that the cost of living continues to get worse, at the same time that everybody will be more and more reliant on government subsidies. They're like, hey, what if we get universal basic income set up and make people more reliant on the government? And that's when it starts to make sense. They want to control our speech, and they're giving out the UBI. It's very strange. But again, on the controlled speech, this piece of information came out, and I'll probably use this in another video, so we're not going to get into it too much. But it just came out. We got big news that the Liberals dished out $7.1 billion on child supports for non-citizens. So in Canada, the Canadian government, aka taxpayers, aka every Canadian watching right now, paid $7.1 billion to non-Canadians to have kids inside of Canada. That's insane. That's self-destructive. And it's because not only is it inflationary because those people shouldn't be here, so that's demand that's created. That's new money that's getting printed because we are borrowing. The deficits continue to grow. And we think it's a good idea to give non-citizens money inside of Canada. And that's why it's so frustrating, because it's not frustrating, actually. It's very good. It's very cool. As they control my speech, moving forward. And it's actually good that they're giving them so much money, because with them giving them all this money, what we've allowed them is the foreign entrepreneurs are now able to hold referendums inside of Canada right here going, this is in Canada. For those who don't know, that is the Khalistani flag, which is great, because what does the Khalistani flag represent? The Khalistani flag represents them saying they are starting and creating sovereign land inside of Canada of a foreign country. The entire intention, the entire goal, everything that's going on is around that flag is them creating their own nation inside of Canada. They're saying, Khalistan is here. Khalistan is here to stay. And we've got these guys going, hey, we're going to keep holding these referendums. Keep in mind, one of the largest Canadian political enthusiast events was committed by these gentlemen, but we continue to welcome them in and encourage that and then give them money. So on top of Canadians having the cost of a living crisis continue to increase, we just got this footage coming live from a grocery store, and this video is really loud, guys, so let me know if it is too loud in the chat right away. But the good news is, when it comes to the foreign entrepreneurs in Canada, if you're starving, you can't pay your bills. So now you've gone to the grocery store to hope to find a bag of rice, maybe a bag of beans or a can of beans that's on sale. You get to go to the grocery store, and in Canada, you get new, live, and in color. We get free shows in Canada. Let's check this out.
Jai Shri Ram! 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 Jai Shri Ram.
So there you have it. Imagine you're a starving Canadian who can't pay your bills and you just go to the grocery store nervous that your card's going to clear and you get greeted by these guys. So keep in mind, they do ask you to tip in rupees because they want to send the money back home anyways. This is what we're dealing with in Canada. That is at a grocery store. That is, yes, demon worship that we're seeing in real time. Looks like it's probably a Food Basics. Allegedly, it was in Brampton. But it was allegedly in Food Basics, I think. I'm not sure. I could be corrected by somebody. But anyways, speaking of foreign entrepreneurs and how perfect and great they are for Canada, they were able to show us some brand new stuff. We just got this breaking story, and don't get me wrong, guys. These guys are impressive, sophisticated young gentlemen. Trainwreck, what's going on? You're walking into peak foreign entrepreneurs. So this is an actual police report. We had 8 local men. I think that is a real liberal usage of the word local, and we'll get into it in a second. 8 local men were charged. Well, what were they charged with? They, were found in an operation targeting demand for fun time services, and this was a 2-day sting. Not only was it for fun time services, well, the suspects, again, I don't like to call them suspects because I feel like that's not very politically correct. I like to call them sophisticated young foreign entrepreneurs who we need in Canada. The suspect males were aware, okay? Stick with me for a second while I read this because the suspect males were aware that they were communicating with somebody believed to be under the age of 18. The suspect males, under 18, okay? They were not. The males were not. We'll get into their ages because these guys, they're here and we need them. Let's get into it. We got Sukwant Singh of one of the brothers Singh, 22 of London. He certainly wanted to Sukwant something, maybe not sing. We got Syed Bilal Sadat. Sadat your butt down because you're going to jail, buddy. 31 of London. By the way, this is London, Ontario, for the people who don't know. Jarnail Singh, more like Jarnail needs bail Singh, 34 of Woodstock. We got Sammy Tawil. Sammy Tawil be spending some time in jail over Christmas, even though he's 27 of London. Again, these names are not the most Canadian sounding names, but evidently these are all local people. And again, I want to reiterate, this was a 2-day sting, a non-targeted sting. It was sent out as basically like a phishing thing. And what's the, I have the terminology for it. But anyways, we got Mohit Dinesh Kabai Kanani was looking for some punani, and he's getting none of it. 31 of London. Yeah, sounds like he's from London. Pujan Rout. I don't have anything for him. I don't have a joke for him. Sorry, guys. 31 of London. Ibrahim Abdullah Malek. More like Abdullah Malek, you finish your sentence in jail. I don't know. Is that good, guys? I'm doing this live. 27 of London. And we got Omar Attar. And, yeah, again, I got nothing for him. We're live. We're having fun. 26 of London. So, I don't know. Should we take a second? Should these be the guys that we put on the stamps? Where are the stamps? These are the guys. Let's, take a moment, guys. We got these guys here. Take a moment. It's Remembrance Day. We need our poppies because we've got the impressive foreign entrepreneurs who we need to remember. Well, let's remember them because here they are. There they are. Take some time with that. And then we also were able to find Iqbal Bagria, a 25-year-old male from Brampton. He was held in custody. This is why I think it's very funny. Actually, you know what? It's not funny. I think the police should stop cracking down on these guys. Guys, these are hustlers. They make the most money, according to all of the foreign entrepreneurs themselves. They're actually building Canada's economy. And we'll get into it in a second because, believe it or not, these stories with the foreign entrepreneurs are getting worse. And this gentleman here was using a pew-pew to extort money out of people in his own community. And I actually think that's worth paying attention to in Canada, because most Canadians don't think, hey, how do we just extort all of the local businesses to just make free, unlimited money? Yes, Jeff, we are building Canada strong, and my pleasure, Dave. I do think these messages need to get out here, and I don't know. What do you guys think? I think I'm one of the few Canadian creators who calls this stuff out at face value. I don't know if everybody else does. One of my first videos, this is a bit of a sidetrack because I'm engaging with the chat. One of my first videos to go viral, which I think is like almost 2 years now, almost 2 years ago, was specifically about the temporary foreign workers program. And I called out all of these gentlemen, and I called out the student visas and all of these things that have been scammed. They have been abused. And now it's politically safe to say, hey, we actually think that maybe we shouldn't have let in 3 million of the foreign entrepreneurs because we actually think that they might have been scamming a little bit. It turns out that when you come from a culture where lying's essentially encouraged, you start to scam and lie a little bit. Yeah, guys, start the bill funding now. So anyways, this guy, the police are just cramping his style because he's out here just trying to make a buck. Just like this kindly young gentleman, Pakistani immigrant who caused a unaliving in a highway crash, wins a chance to stay in Canada. So he's not a citizen. He is just here. This is the problem. And this is where the conversation needs to change. And for everybody who's watching right now, I love you guys. Thank you for doing this because it's great when you get to hang out. And it's great all the support I get on the channel. But here's where the messaging also needs to change. A lot of these people, almost everybody who I showed in these crimes of the foreign entrepreneurs, came over with legal immigration, legal with an L. And that needs to be paid attention to because we need to really crack down on the illegal. Yeah, that's also needs to be cracked down on, but legal is a problem when they came through scam means. And this is what happens when Canada doesn't take, remember how we were referencing the rule of law earlier when it came to the liberals and Donald Trump doesn't ever obey the rules of law and he's just going to destroy democracy. He's got no respect for the rule of law. Here we are letting this guy stay in Canada after literally unaliving somebody. It's a mix of both, Trainwreck, because there's people who are on legal visas, legal PRs, like legal permanent residencies. Yeah, okay, Stephen, that's a good point about the 50-year mortgages. I do agree that it could be. Yes, I do think paying the extra to the principal is prudent. You're a little bit behind. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on, Stephen. But the thing is, which is good, perhaps, because I don't think the government is actually going to crack down on this stuff. Now it's finally getting called out in their own community, sort of. This guy sucks. His name's Kushal Mehra, and he's under the impression that pretty much anybody who sets foot on Canadian soil is indeed Canadian. So yes, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I agree, Lou. It doesn't matter if he married a Canadian and has Canadian kids. He committed a crime. He's not legal to be here. So this guy here says, don't go to Canada. It isn't worth it. This is, again, the foreign entrepreneurs take credit for Canada's entire economy. And I have to say, it's not their fault because the government, and this is actually happening in the US too, for all the Americans, this is worth paying attention to, and why I brought up so much stuff earlier with Dinesh D'Souza, and you got to pay attention with Vivek and a bunch of these guys. They are using the foreign entrepreneurs, the H-1Bs, the temporary foreign workers, as the reason why all of these companies are successful, as the reason of why Canada's economy has been staying alive. And in Canada's case, unfortunately, they have a small argument that they did prop up their economy in Canada. And the reason is all of this massive immigration was used to keep wages low and prop up the economy through increased demand. They brought in millions and millions of bodies, and this is why I use the term on the channel all the time, quantitative peopling. So instead of being able to print money, they printed people. And that's why the legal migration is just as much of a problem as it is with the illegal, because if you're printing people, you're subverting the entire culture. There's a breakdown in social cohesion, and then you're also flooding new money, new demand, new and there's no extra production because we weren't producing anything during that time. We became completely services based. We became a bit of a manufacturing economy without actually building anything. And so then this guy says, propping up the economy. That was a bit of a tirade there. Propping up the economy is not your problem. All you do is destroy your life. I'm urging everyone with folded hands. I am urging everyone who wants to come over and be a foreign entrepreneur as well. Pay heed to what he is saying. The stories he's heard in his investigation this year are heartbreaking. And keep in mind, we are about to get to the funny story, guys, about the funny headline. Don't worry. But this story right here is... It says, I sent 13 girls back. Podcaster warns against sending children to Canada. Author and podcaster Kushal Mehra said young Indians are being lured to Canada with promises of permanent residency, but end up facing exploitation, joblessness, and discrimination. Sucks for you guys. I'm going to have to exit this tab. For some reason, this one makes it all blurry and slow. Author and podcaster Kushal Mehra has revealed that he helped 13 Indian girls return home after they fell victim to expedited people delivery in Canada. The Indo-Canadian YouTuber has now urged Indian families, I too am urging out of my sheer and utter concern, of course, that not to send your children to the country for higher education amid rising joblessness, racism, and exploitation. Here's the thing. Yes, foreign entrepreneurs, you were being used to subvert wages. Yes, foreign entrepreneurs, you were being used to basically prop up Canada's economy through low production and just in quantitative peopling. So the cat's out of the bag. You guys were used. Maybe you should leave. I don't care if you've been here for 2 years or 3 years and you came over on some semi-scam student visa just so you could get here and get a job right away. You gotta go. Yes, so this is, yes, Patrick, this is the same trafficking scam. And so it's funny because when they talk about the, I like to call it expedited people delivery, let's see if we can check in on those names again of the people involved. Did these look like the Canadian people who are complicit in the expedited people delivery? You know, Sukhwant Singh, Jarnail Singh, Syed Sadat. Those are the people who are involved in all of the expedited people delivery. So when we get into this coverage here, is my audio still too low, guys? I'm trying to yell. I'm like maxed all the way and trying to yell. I'll just bring the mic up closer. Yes, you guys do not fall for Vivek in the States. He went on a huge tirade and basically explained why you should not trust him. So do not fall. Okay, is this better? Is this too loud? People, I'm getting mixed reviews, guys. Both Vivek and Dinesh, for the people just joining now, you cannot trust these guys. You got Dinesh D'Souza. He's talking about how the future belongs to the poop throwers. And what he's talking about is the foreign entrepreneurs, the Indians themselves. He's saying the future belongs to them. And it's like, what a surprise. And then he puts out this tweet telling legacy Americans, and this applies to legacy Canadians too, to cut off the inheritance for their kids as if that's a good thing. So it's like, no, guys, don't cut off your inheritance for your kids. And, but don't worry, because as we've brought in the foreign entrepreneurs, it turns out this entire time we've been building up Canada's national army with these foreign entrepreneurs, because we've got Raghu Venugopal. He's an MD in Canada, and he just wants people to know, just to be clear, Canadians hate Trump. We would rather be flayed, drawn, quartered, and burned at the stake. Eat broken hot glass and be fed alive to starved pigs than be part of the United States. Keep in mind, this gentleman's name is Raghu Venugopal. We meme, like, you know, like, what do you mean? The person with the three fingers up, it's like, what do you mean we? You keep saying that word. I don't think it means what you think it means, pal. But it is good because, yeah, you know, there's lots of people on the channel and there's lots of people in the chat, Canadians, who like Trump, of course. And Raghu Venugopal is going to join the army and fight on the front lines just to take on the U.S. But guys, and the Americans and the Canadians watching this, this is going to be probably some of the most ground-shattering news that you've ever heard today as Canada prepares to take on the United States. We've decided to get a group of super soldiers together, and these super soldiers are going to create one of the best armies the world has ever seen. Let's get into this. What we've got here is the Canadian military will rely on an army of public servants. Yes, you've heard that right. The Canadian military will rely on an army of public servants to boost its ranks by 300,000. The federal public servants will be trained on the range, you know, and they will drive trucks, fly drones, and according to the Defense Department directive, they are going to be how we boost the ranks with 300,000. Americans, if you're watching this, you better be quaking in your boots because you're cooked. It ends now. We will never be the 51st state. And because we've got these strong super soldiers leaving Parliament here, look at them. This is the public servants on their way, headed downtown. 300,000 of them gonna take on the U.S. So Americans, you guys need to suck it because we've got 300,000 middle-aged women coming to knock down your doors. Not only are these women going to fight in the trenches, as the Canadian military is going to rely on them, so we're going to defend ourselves with these middle-aged and senior-aged women. So, sorry, America, we're coming for you. So this is what we've decided. This is my new plan. Because if I become president of the world, what we're going to do is we're going to send all of the middle-aged to senior-aged female public servants, not only to defend Canada, we're going to conquer the United States. Do you realize that that would be 300,000 super soldiers going to conquer the United States? Sorry, guys, you are cooked. We just created the strongest army in the entire world, full of public servants. I mean, even this guy right here, very, very intense-looking gentleman. So this was an amazing, amazing story that we just got today that I cannot believe this was... Guys, this article is not sarcasm. It's not The Onion. It's not, the Beaverton. This is not a fake story. This is a real story from a real Canadian newspaper of an actual plan to have 300,000. Guys, most of them can't even tie their shoes. Most of them can't go up a set of stairs without breathing heavy, but we're going to train them to be in the Canadian military. This is what we're getting to in Canada. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Anyways, turning into Alex Jones for a second there. But the the fact they're turning the frogs gay. The fact is we're having fun as we riff here. And yes, so what I'm personally thinking is as we see this continued crackdown on free speech, on controlled speech, on all of these things that are becoming obligated in Canada, they don't want us to be able to speak out. And what they're doing is creating all of these things. Yeah, it's the CCM. Man, if we could get some CCM hockey helmets for those guys. Awesome joke, Jeff. I love that. And this is where we ended up. This is a story from today. And yeah, he might have eaten a few of those frogs. But anyways, guys, this was the video because so for those who are just joining, first of all, if you guys stayed for the entire stream, I love you. You absolutely rock. Basically, what happened was I had recorded a full YouTube video, and basically everything that we just went over here live in real time was the video that I recorded. I just spent more time talking with the chat. So basically what I wanted to do is I wanted a targeted specific stream that you guys could join me, but it's still the video. This was my video for today, just more fun, a little bit longer, but we had a bunch of fun today. So I'm going to, this will be reposted as a video for you guys to watch. So thank you for doing that. And I hope, what did you guys think? Was this fun? Was this fun for us to do the video live? And you guys got to kind of like be a part of it? Because I sort of like the idea of streaming more. I love when you guys are involved with the chat, because it's not like I know everything. So there's often you guys put stuff in the chat that I didn't even know. So yes, this was today's video. We had fun. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Brian. And yeah, like I said, like basically this is today's video. It's awesome. I mean, I did lose today's video. That was not awesome. I recorded the whole thing. I had the intro. I had everything set up. I was like, you know, standing up. I recorded the whole thing. And then we ended up here. Yeah, Trainwreck, you're always great in the chat. Thank you for contributing. I appreciate that. Hello, iPro31. Julie, thank you for joining. You've been on a bunch of the... there's actually been a bunch of regular viewers who came in for these streams. Names that I recognize, first of all, in comment sections and in other streams. And it's great because it's really hard for me to interact directly with you guys, like just in the comments. And I do spend a lot of time responding to your comments. So iPro31, this is a bit off topic for today's video, but he said, what's your prediction for the 51st state? I think, well, Drops Homestead, welcome. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Trainwreck. Yeah, I try to spend a lot of time on the comments. I literally spend, my YouTube takes a lot of my time now, guys. Like I'm working, technically, I still don't even have a full-time income from YouTube, and I'm spending way more time on, way more full-time on YouTube than like hours anyways, because by time like you factor in all the research that I'm doing, how I have to structure the videos, how I have to figure out to package it all together, make sure it makes sense, make sure it's entertaining for you guys. Basically, when it comes to my thoughts on the 51st state, I'm not sure how planned this controlled demolition is, because we see so much. There's the two angles here. We've got the globalism angle that like all, because Carney's connected to the WEF, he's connected to all of these globalist organizations. And in the recent budget, that budget included options for Canada to connect even more with Europe. So I just wonder how much of it is the plan for Canada to come under the globalization umbrella, and then how much of it is like a controlled, because my personal opinion is Mark Carney, it feels like, is managing Canada into the ground to where we are basically being managed as if it was like mergers and acquisitions, and they want to take over Canada and sell it out, because somehow every single possible choice that is made by Mark Carney's government, which we're seeing today with all of the controlled speech, the foreign entrepreneurs, all that stuff, it is directly destructive to Canada as a nation. We now have, like some of you guys are saying, like, Alberta is so closely connected to Montana and the other border states. Although for the Albertans out there, I think we got to have a serious talk about your guys' immigration problem. This is not for today's video. This is for another video. But the immigration numbers coming out of Alberta are insane. They used to, sorry, excuse me. They used to expect roughly, it was like 59,000 new immigrants per year to Alberta, and then in 1 year they got almost 200,000, and now you're expecting the teachers to keep up, the healthcare to keep up, all of this stuff. So personally, it's going to be hard to see how this actually changes. Are we joining Europe? Or, because I do think legitimately, as like there isn't a angle to join all the globalist organizations where we basically join Europe, or there is a world where Canada is completely annexed and taken over by the United States. I honestly don't think that's impossible. I don't, only because based on, if you guys watched, a lot of you guys, a lot of you guys watched, but a lot of my videos didn't do as well last week. But what we've seen, Danielle Smith does rock, but she needs to crack down on immigration too. That's actually a talking point I have for another video, because Danielle Smith is, I saw the video of Vivek at Turning Point. I don't think Americans have much patience left for Vivek. I think his political career is done, personally. I don't know why anybody would want him in charge of an entire state, let alone be president of the United States. So, I don't know if none of it is separating, or if what they're going to do is get more provincial powers. So they aren't separating in the sense like they're going to be their own sovereign nation. It seems more like what they're going to do is they're going to they don't want to be a territory anymore. They want more of their own powers, essentially, to be provinces, give themselves a little bit more power. Justin, the foreign entrepreneur problems is alive and well in Alberta. That's the thing. So it's like Alberta's going to have to take that on if they want to become if they want the sovereignty to leave. You're going to have to just deal with the foreign entrepreneurs. But the Quebec separatist movement. Train wreck. You got to make very specific separations here. But with the Quebec separatist movement is heating up. The premier of Quebec is now saying they want more powers for Quebec. It's looking like there could be a legitimate referendum in Quebec shortly. If that happens, the Alberta one could happen. But the reason why I'm so hesitant, let me see if I can find. This is, here, look at this here. In Calgary, 31% of public school students, so this is Calgary, 31% of public school students are English learners. Because immigration has been so extremely high, the board is now proposing to hire interpreters for regular classrooms. This somehow became normal without anyone raising it with the feds. 31% of public school students are English learners, and there might be interpreters inside of schools in Alberta. And this is why I have to say, guys, unless Alberta gets serious about their programs, you're going to end up with interpreters in classrooms. Like, that's insane that you have to bring interpreters who are like, hey, buddy, how doing? My student need trouble. My student need help. And it's like, okay, maybe. So, yes, long story short, guys, I think that's a whole topic for another video that I'm working on right now. And I think unless Alberta gets serious, you're going to have problems. Like, you can't have interpreters in Alberta classrooms and be like, yeah, we're going to join the U.S. The U.S. is going to look at Alberta and be like, who's going to join? That guy? We're dealing with Vivek. We don't need those guys. We got enough of those. So, yeah, I think until it's all fixed at the provincial level, this is the problem. There you go. Facts over feelings. It's going to be posted. No, Justin, they don't even have to learn French. That you do until grade 9, I believe, but not really. So anyways, guys, that is it for today's stream. Like I said, we filmed it as a video, so facts over feelings, you can start from the beginning. I recorded this as if it is a video. So anybody who joined late, I recorded this as if it is a video, so you can watch from the beginning. We had a lot of fun. So again, thank you to all the regular chatters. Thank you to all of the channel members, Trainwreck, a bunch of other people. When you guys support, it does help a lot. Yeah, exactly. They need to be in separate classes. They cannot be, the students are not able to learn at all. But Yes, Kenzie, go back to the beginning. I recorded it as a video, so it is all of the news we were going to go over today anyway. So everybody who just joined, you can watch from the beginning. So this time, we're actually leaving. Okay, love you guys. Appreciate